Got it. Looking forward to it.
Welcome to Don't Cast and Drive, the interview segment to Lady Blurred Sings the Blues. You have your host here, Sometimes V. Don't Cast and Drive is a podcast of interviews of artistic folk near and far. And today we got Einstein the Mastermind. What's up, dude?
Not much, not much. How's it going?
Good, good. So I actually heard a little bit about you through Bay Area group Il Exotic.
Yeah.
So they were the ones who were like, talk to our friends, talk to our friends. I'm like, okay, I'll go hit them up. So I saw that, I checked you out and I checked out some of your music, and I really like all the stuff that you have on here. But yeah, like, I mean, as much as I'm just gonna like keep flowering you with all these like, you sound amazing, you sound great, you're talented, I actually want you to talk about yourself. So tell me a little bit about yourself, man.
Okay. Yeah, most definitely. So, as you already stated, I'm Einstein the Mastermind. I'm a 26-year-old from Coppers Cove, Texas. Um, recent came out to California in about 2017, 2018. I've been just kind of pursuing my music since then. I've been making music since like 9 or 10 years old. Like I said, I'm 26 now, so it's been a minute. But yeah, no, I'm just I would like to say I'm a very dope individual. I just like creating music that speaks to people's souls and resonates with everyone. So yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like you started like from a very young age. How did you start getting into it?
Honestly, like I've always had a lot of music going around the house at the time. What had happened was, I know that's the greatest way to start shit,
No,
but
it's
nah.
fine. It's like it piques your interest. You're like, oh, that's cool. I mean, it's kind of funky, it makes my body want to move. So how do I get into this? You know?
Yeah, of course, most definitely. So what started it really was like my brother was the first one to really get into music and stuff and start rapping and recording and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And at the time, the music that I had been exposed to was stuff like my dad would always play like the No Limit Soldiers and stuff like that, or my mom would play like the old Cash Money Millionaires and everything. And for some
Mhm.
reason, I always liked shit like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and shit.
Oh,
So
yes.
yeah, I know I was more of a pop person for some reason, but I was listening to that stuff because they would play it all the time and like
Mhm.
more R&B things. And then when my brother started, I always looked at him as like, the whole thing's like older siblings is like, oh, I want to be just like them. So
Yeah, yeah.
I just kind of did it just as a piggyback kind of thing at first, but then afterwards, I just really realized that, hey, I like doing this shit.
Mhm.
So since then, he took me to my first studio, and then I just kind of fell in love with it from there and just kept doing it.
This is great because I'm sure if your brother is listening to this, he's like, ah, yes, the older sibling. Imitation is the best compliment here.
Yeah, pretty much. We've had that conversation multiple times, so he already knows what's up. Yeah.
No, I feel it. I have a little sister, and I for a while I started to draw a lot when I was a kid. That was like kind of my thing. I used to draw like little anime characters for a
Okay.
very long time, and I noticed that she picked it up, but oh, I can't tell her that she's copying me, or God
Right.
forbid that I say it's like, oh, you're just like me, because she'll just throw the drawing away. I'm like, it's okay, we can bond. And she's like, we're nothing alike.
It's like, nah, this is not how this goes.
The sibling rivalry thing was always a thing between me and her, but like I'm glad to hear that you have a healthy relationship with your brother, and that you guys talk about like music, or talk about that where your inspirations come from with music.
Yeah, most
So
definitely.
yeah, so you said, are you currently still in Texas, or are you in California now?
Oh, I'm in California still. I'm
Okay.
actually in San Jose.
You're in San Jose.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
shit, you should have just came right over.
True, but I mean, I didn't want to be like, hey, I know we just have this one conversation, and now I'm gonna just randomly invade your house really quick while we record this.
Yeah, and we're still in a panorama too, so
Exactly.
it wouldn't be good to do that.
Right, just nah.
Oh my goodness, no, that's crazy. So you're super local. When did you get here?
I got into San Jose like July or August of last year because I was staying in San Francisco at first. I
Okay.
was based out of San Francisco because I was working out there as a medical assistant and stuff. I had got my MA license in NSF, and I had
Oh,
been over there for like,
congratulations.
thank you. So, but yeah, no, I had it for a while, and I was working my first job there, but things gotta happen to where I realized the job wasn't the best for me, and my living situation wasn't that greatest. So I was like, you know what, let's make a change, get out here, and do what we got to do. So now I've been
Yeah.
in San Jose since. So
All right. Yeah, no, I feel it. Sometimes like there's folks who got to make that pivot, and then since you have the license, you could always go back to it, right? So like in case if you're like,
exactly,
maybe I can, whatever, like I'll just do me, right?
yeah. I mean, it
Uh,
pays the bills. So yeah,
oh man, selling your soul for something that you're like, okay, I'll just do this, and then I get to feed my soul again when I get home. Yes.
exactly.
No, I absolutely feel that. That's a whole different conversation talking about like how work doesn't define you anymore, but my art or whatever my hobbies are at home do. It's just
Right.
lucky that work will fund those things. It's this whole like web of identity crises and whatnot.
Of course, yeah. Like we were saying, it was just one of those things. Like on one side, I gotta do this and do this thing on the medical assistant side, and just focus on trying to make sure I do my job to the best of my abilities
Mhm.
because I'm basically taking care of people. But on the other side, I'm just like, yo, music though. This shit is awesome. Like this is what I came out here for. Why am I still doing this? It's like plan A and plan B basically back and forth, you know?
Right, right. Yeah, so with doing music, usually with that journey, like, people pick their type of voice, their type of instrument, and your instrument is voice and rhyming. Did you start off as like an instrumentalist, or did you start just writing poems, or what did you do to kind of get into rapping?
Well, I think for me on my side, it was more so like I started writing because I always had an affinity for writing. English was always my best subject and stuff. So I like
Mhm,
creating stories and things at that point. But I also like just the idea of like creating in general. I've always been a more artistic kind of guy anyway.
mhm.
I mean, I have a little bit of background with like high school band and stuff like that and high school theater things. I used to play
Oh yeah.
alto and tenor saxophone and then just a little
Okay, there it is. I was looking for. Okay, sorry. Go on.
yeah. But no. It's just like alto, tenor sax, and some tuba. And then I did stuff in theater and things. So I always just loved the arts in general. I
Mhm.
never wanted to be that kind of person to where I had to do the typical like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna be behind the desk the entire time and just typing shit. And like I don't want to be a numbers kind of guy. I
Yeah.
want to expand people's minds and just open an area of conversation for things, you know. So
Mhm. Yeah, no, it sounds like you're kind of the brainiac of creativity over there. No pun intended with your handle, right?
of course, yeah.
How did that name come to be? Your
So back in like middle school, I want to say, yeah, because I was still toying with like how I was trying to like get like what kind of a name I was gonna have and things. Like I was running through
Mhm.
the most stereotypical names, like Lil Astro or some crap, just the money bag. I don't know. I was just going through just bad names, and like so I had this friend basically that every single time she saw me and she would see me like in lunch or like in one of our classes and stuff. She would always bust out singing a little Einstein theme song for
Oh,
some reason. And she would
it's
just always see me and be like, we're going on a trip in our favorite ride. So nah, like I, at first I hated it because I was like, bro, come on now. But then like one day, I don't know what the hell snapped, but I was like, you know what? This might actually work. So I don't know. I just kind of just ran with it and then just flipped it into my own and went from there. Yeah.
nice. Yeah. That was I think that was one of my favorite kids theme songs that came into fruition in the meme world.
Most
Where
definitely. Yes.
like all of the TikToks and the remixes
Right.
that came out of that song were top tier.
Exactly.
Absolutely top
Every
tier.
single time it was like, yes, please keep doing this.
No, but that's cool. And so Einstein just kind of stuck for you. Like I actually kind of like the how you used it on your social media. So for those who are listening, most of his handles is it's Einstein TM, but
Yeah.
it stands for the mastermind, but it sounds like trademark because that's your name.
Right.
So you took whole advantage of this one name or this, yeah, of your whole handle, and then you're like, I'm just gonna be very not creative, but like here's not the joke, but I think what I'm trying to say is like you were clever with it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
You're very
yeah,
clever
basically.
with it. So and it's easy for me to remember. Like usually whenever like I hear somebody's handle, I'm like, okay, I have to write it down because I'm sure like when they try to like, put it on different channels and stuff that they had to like change it up a little bit, like,
Right.
like flowers 1, 2, 3. But no, yours is like pretty straightforward and to the point. And I'm like, okay, I like this.
This works. Thank you. The funny thing about that though is the fact of every single time I try to explain it to someone, I realize there's way too many T's in it sometimes. So it's like it's a little difficult. And it's like, all
Yeah.
right, look, just ITSEINSTEINTM. We got it. Cool.
Yeah. Just Einstein, like the scientists. Like it's not
Yeah,
that hard.
like I know, but sometimes people it sometimes. But no,
Right.
of course, it is definitely a nice centralized thing, and I'm glad that I'm able to use it.
Right. No, exactly. So when did you it sounds like a lot of your stories that you're talking about is like from middle school and stuff. When did you officially like realize that you had a knack for rhyming and like you were actually pretty good at it? Like when was like your moment of realization with that?
Hmm, okay. A little a little bit of both, like back in the day in middle school things, and like
Hmm.
just kind of outside, like school life and things. So the first time was like me and my older brother did a talent show.
Hmm.
Like that was like one of my first talent shows with him, like me actually performing with him. So it was like nice, and that I was able to get on the stage with him and everything. He was a little bit hard on himself because like when his verse came up, like he kind of messed up like midway through, and then just for some reason decided to walk off the stage because how mad he was. Yeah.
No.
So basically I'm just sitting there like, okay, either I can walk off with him or I can just keep going. And so I just decided to keep going, and then everybody was just like, yo, you killed it. And then I ended up getting invited to do other things as well too on top of that. So I was like,
Okay.
okay, validation, this is nice. I mean, I hate that it had to come at his expense, but yeah. But nah, so that was one case. And then like um outside of like actually like after graduation and things, I had ended up going to school in Central Washington University for a little bit.
Hmm.
um uh, I ended up going out there, and I'm not gonna lie, it was that moment where like I never actually fully finished like college stuff because I just reached a point where I didn't want to go for what I was going for, and
Right.
I also just felt like it was kind of pointless because at the time I wanted to do like audio production kind of things, but
Hmm.
my dad wasn't trying to hear any of that because my brother had previously went to like the Art Institute in Austin and kind of screwed it up for me. So
Oh yeah,
parents.
so parents usually do get a little iffy where it's like if one sibling accidentally, falters, then it's like, are you going to do the same thing,
Exactly,
And
yeah.
yeah, no, that gets tricky, especially if it's, I mean, I don't know this full backstory, but were your parents the ones supporting you guys through college?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
My dad was military at the time, army.
Ah,
So I'm an army brat, but yeah, nah. Just he never. My dad was never really like the biggest fan of us doing music in general, and then just my brother flunking out kind of solidified it. My mom was always the one that supported it the most, but
mhm.
you know, yeah. So
I
it was just
bet
one
you,
of
like,
those.
you do you, baby. I bet you she's always like
Pretty
that.
much, yeah. Like if you look on my Facebook sometimes, you'll just see her just always comment like the most supportive things ever, even when I'm just posting something that I may just be in my feelings. So yeah, but yeah, no, that's basically been her. Yeah,
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, that's
of
amazing.
course.
So let's actually start going into the album. So
Okay.
I've noticed, just kind of going through it myself, that evolve,
Yeah,
evolution, like, manifesting yourself is what the main themes that I really like dug into this. And I thought it
of
was
course.
absolutely amazing. Like I really liked how my perspective was a very nice exposition to the whole album, just kind of describing everything that was going on. Now,
Yeah.
we don't have to go like song by song breakthrough. Like, also
No,
those who
of
are
course, I
listening,
get
it's
it.
a long album, so like be prepared
Yeah, I
for
wanted to
like,
go back to the classic album format, so that's why I was like, you know what, 17 tracks, people are gonna flock to this one way or another. I don't care. But I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But nah.
right, you're like, okay, be prepared to tell this story. And I mean, and it's also important that, you know, we as listeners have the capacity to listen to whole albums again, because
Yeah.
I think that's something that we lost a lot back, I would say early 2000s, like late 90s.
Yeah, give or take. I mean, a lot of like the industry nowadays is like that instant gratification kind of thing. Like nobody, like you said, nobody really listens to full blown albums anymore. It's like single, single, single. And like, yeah, there's albums that are like really amazing that come out, but it's like sometimes those kind of artists are just pushed to the side because a Lil Nas X or I don't know who else is just singles kind of guy. As much as I like 24K Golden, he's kind of like that too. It's just like, all right, I'm gonna do single after single after single and move on in my life. It's just,
Yeah.
I like it, but I also just like, let's digest shit, you know, like
Mhm.
let's actually want to have this kind of a conversation and want to review things and just open a discussion for people to just
Mhm.
debate music. Like
Mhm.
I love a good hip hop debate. I don't like picking sides, but I love it. So yeah. But nah, just I wanted to go back to that kind of a style. I wanted to go back to where somebody had to actually listen fully through to like
Mhm.
understand exactly where I'm coming from, but at the same time
Mhm.
also create songs that can stand on their own and in their own merit and kind of fit the narrative of today as well too. That's kind of
Right.
the way that I was trying to construct this album, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was great. Like, it was very, it was definitely an adventure. Like, there was a lot of things, like it was very energizing at the beginning and it slows down in the middle. And then you kind of get into like a different sort of texture with like a lot of your beats where it's like a lot of it's just like, you know, you can hear like sampling and like, you know, instrumentals that are generated from whoever's producing to like, then you go into brass tracks.
Yeah,
So like, it was really, really nice to hear the contrast of how the journey went through the album.
right.
So I really appreciated that. And like I said, my perspective, great introduction, great exposition. Like, I really liked how it kind of outlined, like it was a table of contents of what I was about to listen to.
Of course.
And
Thank you.
yeah, it was great. So I guess just a couple of things that I wanted to just get your thoughts on, and if you don't mind, I want to say like my top three favorite songs.
You're all good. No worries. I understand. Do you?
So top three is definitely my perspective. And then the other one is My Way. And then the other one is Man in the House.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
And so,
definitely great tracks. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, obviously Involve was really good, but I didn't want to stick with just,
Right. Of
just
course.
the
I feel it.
title of
You're
the
all good.
So my perspective, it was, like I said, it was just lovely, really nice, like kind of beginning, like you're basically you're prioritizing yourself. And I think this is so important for a lot of us to realize that not only that we have to be so focused on ourselves, but the idea of validation through others in order for us to succeed, it shouldn't be the priority. It should be a complementary thing.
Yeah.
And so what was kind of like your mindset or processes with like kind of composing that track itself?
Well, I mean, honestly, I was really like super in my feelings when I wrote that. I'm just gonna be
The
be
whole album is in
110%
your feelings. Come on.
I mean, I know it was very introspective, but like it's just one of those things for me when I created that song. Like I literally just got done with having that conversation about my dad, well, with my dad about how he didn't think that I could do this kind of
Mhm.
thing. So
Yeah.
I wanted to, it was because basically how I moved out to California was I didn't have anybody that I knew out here besides my dad because he had recently just split up with my mom and ended up getting contracting jobs and stuff, and he just ended up in middle of nowhere, California for some reason. So
Okay.
I decided I wanted to change from Central Texas, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot and see what happens.
Right.
And unfortunately, it didn't go the way that I wanted it to,
Of
which
course.
ended up sparking that conversation because I wanted him to actually give my music an actual chance instead of just being like, no, you can't do this, kind of thing, you know? So then that's kind of how he had been for a while, and I had a nice trajectory with like what I was making before I got out there. And the
Mhm,
whole reason why was because I wanted to keep that trajectory going and build even more upon it. And for
mhm.
him to like kind of come in and shut me down at that moment was just like one of those things of like, yo, fuck. That's
Yeah.
not in a bad
Well,
way,
it's
but
hard when a parent like shuts down, or even like an elder in your family shuts down your whole passions, the things that are basically artistically keeping you alive, and also
yep,
mentally keeping you alive. Like,
exactly.
and these are things that you have grown as a like as a passion, and then the person that you've been seeking validation from like literally your whole life, because
Yeah,
it is going to be your parents. We mimic our parents. We love, these parents are the first people that we love growing up. They're the people that are supposed to be to protect us. So when you have someone who you love so much not validate your actions or validate your dreams, it can be destroying. And
definitely.
so yeah, like I don't blame you where you're just like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah,
you're supposed to
exactly.
support me, not knock me down,
Right. And
and
then just one of those things with it was like I had also been seeing like all these different things that have been happening in the world at the
mhm,
time. Like I had wrote the song basically within the midst of like the Ferguson riots and
mhm.
everything. My timeline might be a little bit messed up, but like
Okay.
the different kind of like struggles that have happened in the world, and then seeing the kind of issues of Trump's presidency as well too, and just taking that and adding that onto the kind of feelings that I was already feeling in general about like everything. It was just
Yeah.
one of those things that I just decided, let me just put it all on wax right now. Like
Yeah.
honestly, I had been working like writing the album like before this conversation had happened. So this is like one of the last songs that I really wrote down and just went all out for because I knew I wanted to just stand firm in what I believed in.
Right.
So I just laid it all out there on that and went from there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. And let's actually transition into like, kind of talking about man of the house, since, we're talking about parent validation and all that stuff. And
Right.
it sounds like your dad is kind of, he acts as a figure in your life that I'm sensing from your music. This is what I'm getting. Like
No, okay. I understand.
that, yeah, that he has put so many roadblocks and has had, I would imagine both you and your brother had to like upkeep
Yeah.
the things that he wasn't taking care of. And so tell me about man of the house a little bit. It sounds like things like, I'm not sure if this is true to story, but it sounds like a couple altercations probably happened and a lot of fighting has probably happened because,
Yeah.
being in the military, I grew up next to a military base, and I had cousins who had their father in the military, and he was always gone, and gone for months, comes back, gone for months, comes back, which obviously puts a strain on the relationship, whether the relationship was healthy or not.
Exactly.
um
Yeah.
so tell me a little bit about man of the house.
Yeah, so that was another one that I kind of had to put on wax because, like, at the time I was realizing a lot of things within, within my life and trying to like build upon, trying to figure out why things were the way that they were. And I've, I'm not gonna stunt. I don't have my shit together fully. Like, literally, the premise of the last song of all was I ain't perfect, but I'm working for it. So, but nah, just I knew that I've had a lot of issues and stuff that I've kind of gone through that I've just had to work through in general. And I
Yeah.
know that if I had had someone that was actually supposed to show me the ropes fully,
Hmm.
then maybe things would have been different. But because I
Right.
didn't have that, I'm literally trying to just piece it together and hope and pray for the best right now. And
Right.
sometimes I feel like that strain does make it difficult for me, especially with these with relationships with my mom and my sister and my brother as well too. And just I don't know, I just felt like it was right to disclose that information for me so that I can basically close that chapter on how I felt and then
Hmm.
get some closure and move on, you know?
Right. Yeah. And I also, what's interesting is that you do point out a lot of kind of stereotypes that happen with Black men, a lot with the absence of fathers, and which you've
Yeah.
addressed in my perspective as well as a man in the house, where it's a common theme that with Black households, whether if you're in the military or whether if you're lower income, like there's always going to be a distant or inconsistent fathering of or basically not very stable parenting is I'm going
Right.
to say.
Yeah.
Because like that's what, to share kind of my experience, that's what happened to me.
I get
My
that. Yeah.
Yeah, my dad was very inconsistent, put a lot of stress every time he would come back. There was a lot of fighting. And then, when you're a kid, you're like helpless and you're like, what do I do? But then when I got to be an adult and I asked him all these questions, then instead of him telling me like, like this is what was going on, and like there was, instead of not having a sense of growth, he started to fight with me. and
Of
and
course. That's
yeah,
yeah.
he started to fight with me, and then he would actually do all these weird accusation-y things where he's like, you're just like your mama and all this jazz. And it's
Yeah.
like, you want the people that you love to grow and hopefully to grow with you, because like
Right.
us as people going through trauma, like there's a couple ways to digest it, right? There's one way to digest it where we completely mimic the same behavior and there's no growth set. But there's the
Yeah.
other side of it where we want to be the complete opposite of it, and we're trying to grow from that behavior for us so that we're better people.
Right.
So I guess where my next question is going to, as I'm rendering
You're
around this,
I get it. You're good.
is yeah, like how do you feel as a Black man? Like, do you plan on having a family like in the future? Like, is there things that you've learned from your dad that you are not trying to repeat or have grown from, so that way you can be a better example? Like, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I mean, I do plan on having a family in the future. Right now, where I'm at with everything, I just kind of I want to take my time.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I'm one of those people where it's like I see like different people in my age range and like people that I've grown up with, like already having families and like being more put together, or at least from the outside looking in kind of thing.
Mhm.
But it sometimes it gets a little bit daunting thinking about it because it's like, okay, 26, I blink, I'm not, and I'm gonna be 30. What the hell? But
You're
yeah,
fine, Mr. 26.
I
You
know.
have time. Sorry, I'm sure everyone's told you that.
They do, yeah, but it's like it's funny because a lot of my friends, a lot of my friends are like a little bit more on the younger side, like
Yeah.
around like early 20s. And I have like maybe one or two that are like maybe past like not even 220 yet, but that's also because of the type of school that I went to. I was at Job Corps in San Francisco, where I got my license.
Yeah.
So they take 16 to 24-year-olds. So like a lot of friends that I have are for some reason younger than me. So it's like, and so it's just one of those things to where it's like I look at all of this and I'm just kind of like, yo, like they seem to have their stuff together, and yet I'm still over here piecing it, and I'm just like, yo, like what the hell? But nah, so it's just I don't know. It's weird because like I want to take my time. I want to
Mhm.
I want to make sure that when I end up in the right situation, that it feels right to me and it feels right to them. But I want to eventually have kids for sure.
Yeah.
And it's just I walking away from like from the relationship that I've had with my dad, and like seeing the kind of route that he's had, and especially also realizing where he came from as well too, and which is part of why he is the way he is. I
Mhm.
want to make sure that my kids don't have that same kind of relationship with them that I've
Right.
had with him that I've had with him.
Mhm.
So it takes a bigger person to try to be like, all right, look, I know we went through some stuff, but let's put it to the side for them. But it's like I just don't want to have that sense of regret of them
Right.
not being able to know like where they come from,
Mhm.
kind of things. But I also want to make sure that they know that that doesn't make that doesn't define who you are, kind
Right.
of thing. So I want to make sure that they know they can do whatever the hell they want,
Mhm.
but also not be serial killers or something. But yeah, but nah, like I just want them to have that freedom, but also be aware of where their surroundings and what they see in society, and who and how society can treat us as
Mhm.
black men or black women. But I also want them to know that that doesn't control who you are. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think like slowly but surely, like our generation, like it gets better. So then that way, this is not something that identifies us.
Right.
And yeah, like, and what's really great is I always point out the whole thing. There's so many resources now, and there's like now that we have the internet and people share so many of their stories that we're able to be like, wow, like this is also happening to them. So
Most
now that
definitely.
I'm learning this, and it's not just me in my own bubble with going through this, then
Right.
I have, you find an inner peace with it. And I'm not saying it's completely resolved, but
No, of course, yeah.
there's an inner peace with just like being able, like, wow, I can grow. Like I can grow, and I don't feel that this is going to define me. And this is
Right.
something also that you also indicated in your music. Like this is not going to be something that defines you. So I really appreciate that you kind of went into that, because it's hard talking about your parents, especially where I'm sure if your mom loves everything that you do and she finds out that you did this podcast, I'm sure she'll listen.
Yeah.
But those who are probably not as supportive like your dad, it's probably not likely that he's going to listen unless there's a chance where he's turning around and being like, maybe I should be better. But who knows
Right.
where that may go. So
No, of course.
and I understand that it can be a completely not ambiguous place, nebulous place. And it could surprise you in the future, but
Right.
all in all, so yeah, I really liked Man of the House a lot. Just how you were kind of describing your story. And then the third one, I can't remember if I said there was a third one. I can't remember if I said it was overthinking or grinding.
Okay. All right.
It was one of those two. I think you know what? Let's talk about grinding.
All right. Let's get right into the nook and crannies of this guy.
So grinding was great because you definitely talk about your grind life balance.
Yeah.
And so there is, so funny story.
Okay.
I had the shortest interaction with another rap artist in the San Jose area. I don't even know if he's still rapping. It was kind of like one of those like, hey, I rap. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I was like 21 years old at the time, and I had hard eyes. I'm like, tell me more about your music. And so like there was like one night where like we were like, where I met him and like we were both drinking, and then he tells me about his stuff and I get his number, and then he's telling me all the time on like via text that he's like recording and he can't see me, and he's recording and he can't see me, and it's
Right.
like, and it was, I only saw him that one time, so I wasn't really tripping about it. I'm like, okay, he's not really making an effort to communicate, so he's a fuck ass, I'm gonna go on. Like, you know,
Happens.
for those who are in, you know, probably longer relationships, but I'm sure there's probably the struggle of communicating with your significant other, like, I have to do these things because it's outlining my future.
Right.
If I don't stop, there's gonna be an outcome that I don't want, and I'm gonna wallow in it.
Yeah.
And also like the constant reminder of being like, I have to remind my significant other that they're important, but also at the same time, my identity is just as important. So
Exactly. Yeah.
where were you coming from with grinding?
So, another funny story actually.
Tell them all.
So, I hate to put it out there like that, but I'll preface it. Basically, I had wrote the song while I was in Job Corps as well too. I was dealing with a long distance relationship at the time because I was with this woman back home in Texas for a while, and we kind of had a little bit of a rocky thing even before I went out there. But because I was doing the school stuff on top of also trying to figure out how to get my music going at the time around there, it was like one of those things of like I couldn't really have interactions with her. I couldn't like message. I couldn't be on my phone constantly trying to speak to her and things.
Right.
And then, of course, this is just the man side of me. I will admit it is what it is. But like with me being in a whole new place, I don't want to just like be held back. That probably is like a Sagittarius thing, but whatever.
Okay, blame it on the astrology sign.
But nah, so it was just one of those things that like she couldn't understand that like I had to do these things. I had to be away sometimes, especially like while I'm in school. It's like, yo, like I'm not on the phone 24/7, 365. I have to study. I have
Mhm.
to do these things. Like,
Right.
let me be me. Like, so nah, just like we ended up breaking up. It was kind of rough for her at the time, and it was kind of rough for me because I'm just like, yo, I did really like this girl.
Mhm.
So it was just one of those things. Like, it was tough, but eventually I ended up getting over it and stuff like that. Like within, I'll say maybe I had like a 2-3 week timeline because I love hard. I'm not even gonna start, but yeah. So I got over it, and once I started getting like more like upbeat and everything, I wanted to. I didn't want to specifically go out of my way to write about that situation, but
Mhm.
I just found a beat online, and
Mhm.
then it just for some reason that melody kind of spoke to me in that way to where I was just like, you know what, this is probably the route that I need to take with this. Because sometimes in the writing process, just certain melodies that you'll hear will remind you of certain times and certain instances, and
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to let that go out,
Mhm.
regardless of what topic it could really be. And
Right.
for that, it just ended up becoming grinding. So yeah,
Yeah, no, and again, I think like I was probably trying to reiterate, like this happens to a lot of people when they're in their work, in
yep.
their art. Work is art, so I don't want to confuse the both, but like
No, of course I get it.
um that sometimes it's not, you know, if you're gonna be in somebody's life, you have to be supportive of what they're trying to do, but also keep in mind like the other side of it is like stay mindful about that person's time too. I'm not saying
Yeah,
that's what's going on, but
of course.
but it's hard, right? Because once you're fully immersed in something and one you don't want to get out of your head about it because you know like you're trying to create like a product, like um sometimes taking the 2 seconds to text somebody back can take you out of your immersion.
Yeah.
Um and it's really hard. But yeah, I always want to point that out because it happens. The rolling joke is that jazz musicians, when they get married, they get divorced 2 weeks later, but
Yeah.
the girl won't even tell them. She'll just pack up all her shit and leave. Like,
Like, all right, so I'm not gonna say nothing but bye.
exactly. I can't remember which famous artist. I think I can't remember if it was Charlie Parker or somebody else, but they basically got home and all their stuff was like all of their furniture, everything was gone except
God
for the
damn.
saxophone. And they're like,
Sheesh.
well, and it's just like they're practicing more jazz.
Right.
Like this is all I got.
Like that might as well.
But that happens a lot, and I think it's just sometimes the reality of those who aren't and doing any hobbies too, like they're so caught up in like their work life and
Yeah.
going home and expecting to have all the attention with this person that they're trying to build their life with that they forget like, oh, maybe I should spend some time on creating something for myself too, so that way I don't have to depend so much on the other person.
Of course.
But that's what I kind of got from it because like so many sad stories of so many breakups, but also
True.
I've heard the other sides of it too, and I'm just like, okay, well, my buddy's just being a dumbass. Like,
It's like on one hand, all right, I get it, but on the other hand, bro,
well, it looks like you've been out here in California long enough, and it looks like you made some friends. So, like, Ill Exotic, how did you get to know those guys?
so with Ill Exotic, actually, it's funny because I went to school with DZ Step's cousin, the Kid Ghost. He's
Oh, okay.
also another rapper out here in the Bay Area and stuff. He's actually in Fresno right now. But yeah, I went to Job Corps with him, and me and him wanted to make a song together because I was just trying to make a connection at the time. So and we both liked each other's styles and everything.
Hmm.
So when we decided to make the song that we did, we ended up going to DZ Step studio so to record everything. So that's how I ended up meeting DZ Step. That's actually how I ended up meeting a lot of people. I met basically so it ended up being the Kid Ghost putting me on to DZ Step, Ill Exotic, Coronita, one of our other producer friends, Rick and Niche, my manager, actually, Christopher Tang, Infinite G. He goes by both names. But yeah, so that one connection basically put me in the room of like so many different people at so many different times that made good connections that,
Yeah.
it just kind of worked. And then me and DZ, we wanted to work together as well too. And then that just kind of turned into Blessings One Night, which is like one of my personal favorites, because it's
Yeah.
we did a whole video and everything. And who that gets on a Ferris wheel and starts rapping? Like,
Right.
like that was the video. We had so much fun with that. But yeah, DZ stuff, Ill Exotic, they're great, and they're great people, they're great artists. We're doing some more work soon.
Good.
Definitely. It was nice to just be able to connect with everybody like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you scored a good network of people. Like DZ Step and Coronita, like Coronita I've known since high school.
Right.
So we're both from basically around the same block. But I remember that we both did music school together. And then like when she moved first to try to do music out in San Jose, and then something went down, and then I moved to San Jose, and then she moved back to Monterey.
Right.
And then when she told me, she actually emailed me like when I was like halfway through my music program, and she was like, hey, I'm going back out there to San Jose, but I think I'm gonna go to Chabot College. I'm like, oh my God, if you go to Chabot College, that is
You're going to Chabot? Oh,
that is the spot. I'm like over here like hitting my imaginary rap horn, like
right.
go. Because every person that I met in college, like San Jose State wise, like anybody who was with Chabot was always cool as fuck.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I feel that. Yeah.
So knowing that she was going to go there, I was like, she'll be in good hands. She does not need my ass.
No. Oh, that's
and so when I heard that you got in contact with them, I'm like, oh yeah, you're in good hands. You're I'm not saying you're finished. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like that's a good spot.
Of course, most definitely. Yeah. They're definitely great people though, definitely. So I'm glad I was able to connect with them like that.
Yeah. No, they're great. They're so sweet. And so I'm glad to hear that, like, anytime they throw like, hey, I know you're still doing interviews, are you still looking for people? I'm like, I mean, throw them at me, and they throw your name. I'm like, yeah, let's go.
It's like, this guy, yes, yeah, I need him.
let's go. No, and that's absolutely like one of the things I love about doing this is like I get to meet all these different people, and everybody's so humble, and so like thank you for being another humble guest.
Of course, most definitely. That's the best way I can be. I don't like being like, nobody likes an asshole. Let's keep it real. Like,
not at all.
There's some instances to where it's like, all right, you're an asshole with a purpose. Cool, whatever. But just still, like, it's like you gotta jump through all these different hoops and bounds just to still deal with them and not lose your shit. I don't want to be that guy. Like,
yeah, I'm kind of like, sometimes if that happens, like the smiling Wendy meme where you're just smiling and it's just like internal screaming. I'm like,
yeah.
Luckily that hasn't happened, but when it does, I'm sure I'll probably just be like, what do I do here?
It's like, all right, how do I get out of this as fast as I can without pissing anyone off?
Exactly. So just a couple of things. It looks like we're actually kind of getting to the closing part of the podcast, but is there anything that you would like to share? We'll talk about your social media handles in a second, but is there anything else that you would like to kind of broadcast out to the world?
Well, I mean, honestly, just the big thing right now is the album Evolve. I'm going to be working on a few music videos for that right now. I'm open to work with anybody as well too. So if anyone enjoys the project and wants to do something with me, I'm open for any and all avenues. Just let me know. You can always reach out to me. I don't think I'm really, it's weird. I put all this effort into this project, and now I'm just like, okay, now I just want to create freely and hope and pray for the best. I didn't really have another, like any other thing that I'm working on, but I think it's just because I put so much passion into this, and like, I'm glad that I'm able to finally get it out and to showcase it to people and for people to hear my message. So I'm going to be pushing this like as hard as I can, but just, and anybody that wants to work or just likes my music and wants to just make a new friend, I guess. You could just
we're in the world now where everything's digital, so it's not that hard to reach out and be like, hey buddy.
Exactly. It's like, oh, so I heard you make music, you're a really good person. I'm like, Exactly. No, I feel it.
All right. Well, tell me, just let everybody know where they can find you, like your Bandcamp, social media.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
so everything's pretty centralized. You can honestly Google me at Einstein the Mastermind, and most of everything will pop up. But if you want to like search primarily for like my Instagram or anything, the handle is going to be at it's Einstein TM. That's ITSEINSTEINTM. Once again, as I may have previously stated, too many T's, but you know what? It is what it is.
Great.
And then you can just find the music anywhere: Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music. I don't know if anybody uses Deezer, but Deezer, Pandora. It's weird. Pandora,
Napster,
Naps,
GoDaddy.
exactly. A funny story about Pandora, though. Literally every single time that I would perform, for some reason, Pandora was just like really weird about putting my music on there. I don't know how my album managed to get on Pandora, but I'm glad that it did, because now I can finally say I'm on
Oh,
Pandora as well too. But every single time that I would perform, I would always preface it when people would try to find my stuff. I'd be like, everywhere except for Pandora, because Pandora's on adult bullshit. But yeah,
just like Pandora's trash.
yeah, exactly. But now it's like, all right, cool. I don't have to say that anymore. Great.
No, that's great. I wonder what it is with them. Was it just hard to submit, or they were just like, nah, bro, you're not
Yeah, it's just like a
Kashi
really
69?
weird like algorithm or something. Like I'm not the only artist that's dealt with it like this. I've talked to other people like back home in Texas.
Mhm.
Like one of my best friends that I make all my music with, Mighty. He's dealt with the exact same thing, and it's just I don't know if it's just because albums have a better chance of getting on there in as opposed to like singles, but
Mhm.
I don't know. The algorithm's weird. If I could talk to somebody at the office of Pandora to figure this out, that'd be amazing. So yeah.
No,
So,
I think they're in Redwood City, so you're
all
not
right.
too
Well,
far
looks like
away.
I'm knocking on Pandora's door. Then I'll just be like, "Yo, can you tell me why this took forever? I need to know. Where are my answers?"
I live right next to Netflix, so one time they canceled my show, and I'm like, I'm gonna walk down there and yell at the
Oh
sign.
my god, that's amazing. So shit, I might as well join you at this point.
Get your pitchforks. We're gonna protest the cancellation.
Like, let me turn into Monique real fast. I'm like, oh no, I'm terrible. I'm terrible.
Right. No, you're all good, dude. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening to today's episode of Don't Cast and Drive. This episode will be published on Spotify and Apple Pods under the same playlist as Lady Blurred Sings the Blues. It's also under its own playlist on SoundCloud. So if you just look up Don't Cast and Drive, like one N, no and, just Don't Cast and Drive, you'll find my little logo and you'll see all the interviews backtracking from the beginning. So and then of course, if you guys want to follow the Instagram page, that will be at Lady Blurred Sings the Blues. So everything that is published for Don't Cast Drive will be there as well as on Facebook. But it was so much fun to have you on the show today, Einstein. It was great.
It was a pleasure being here, and I'm glad we made friends out of this now. Because yes, you are amazing. Yes.
Thank you.
And just
Yeah,
thank
and
you
you
for
as
having me
well.
once again. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be friends. No worries. I'll just like
All right.
I'll just like
That's
shout out you on Twitter or do a subtweet being like, hey, check this guy out. What guy? This guy.
this guy right here.
Oh my gosh. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. Have a good night.
All right.